So before we begin, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Kundayi Mazando. I'm a rising sophomore at Battlefield High School. I guess something about myself is that I'm obsessed with video games.
Okay, so our first question for you is how long have you been doing debate?
Well, I started debate in sixth grade, but due to troubles with moving a lot, I wasn't able to go back to debate until ninth grade, so for a total of 2 years.
Okay. Second question, so who or what exactly about debate drew you to the activity?
If you would have asked me 4 years ago, I probably would have said that loving to argue would be my main strive to join my debate team at Reagan. But I think what brought me back in ninth grade and why I was so excited to join debate in high school was the feeling when you're debating, it's like no other. When you're up and you're presenting your case, you feel the passion like coming through while you're speaking, and it's just a super fun experience. I can't really describe it with words. You just have to be there and do it yourself.
Next question. Um, Give me one quick. It's my understanding that you have some experience with both in the past, correct?
Yes,
PF
I
and
have.
L. So if you were to pick one, which one's your favorite one? And explain a little bit as to why it's your favorite one.
Okay, so this is a no-brainer for me. I love LD. I choose it any day over PF. And not because PF is bad, but there's just one thing that just makes it LD, for me at least, exponentially better. And that's because of partners in PF. For me, I'm not a very social person, so having like a partner who I like just met kind of sort of scares me. Also, the dependency on your partner, you have to be dependent on your partner. You have to, and they have to be dependent on you. The trust should be strong. And I also love to do things independently. And I feel like it, and how I debate is so unique that if I have a partner, I don't think we could really mesh. We'll be like arguing, but it's just mainly team stuff. I like the aspect of going solo.
Okay. What areas do you think you can improve on going into next year and beyond?
I think I could definitely work on my time management. I've had this problem with time management since the beginning of the year debating, and I often put off my case until the night before. And every time I do that, I come out with like 4 hours of sleep, and then it's just not a good experience. So I definitely work on time management, trying to get my 8 hours of sleep because it's just honestly it's exhausting trying to do everything like in one night.
Okay. So Kabir just joined. Kabir, why don't you introduce yourself to Kundayi? And then,
Yeah. So hello everyone, whoever's watching this video. My name's Kabir Singh. I'm a rising senior at Rockridge High School. I'm going to be going into my third year of debate. I started my sophomore year, just as with public forum, and then this year I kind of expanded into Lincoln Douglas, but also student Congress. For those of you who participate in that. But the main thing is I'm just going to be focusing on public forum and Lincoln Douglas debates today. And apologies for the late introductions. I had a family emergency, so I wasn't able to make it on time.
no worries about it. So I think you already answered question one. We can move on from that.
Yep.
I think this is a good one. So who or
Okay.
what got you into debate?
So I guess one of the main things there's like two main factors that kind of introduced me to like joining the debate team at Rockridge High School. The first was that I actually participated in a similar club called Model UN. And that's pretty similar to debate in aspects of just trying to do your background research, trying to understand the topics, and then use that knowledge in an applied sense to kind of persuade people to join and work with. So that was one factor because at my school, most of the people who did Model UN actually also did debate. And then I think the second thing was also just having a close friend group. They were all like heavily involved in debate. So I was kind of like the one guy that was left out. So I'm just like, you know what, why don't I just give it a shot? Like I may not be the best guy at it, but let's see where it takes me. Let's put in the work. And we'll kind of see like the end results. And there's always certain benefits that just come with participating in debate, even if you're not the best individual. I think just like expansions upon like your research skills, the ability to like public speak, persuasion, rhetoric, just different things like that. This is just kind of appealing to me as a topic as a whole as well.
So it's my understanding, Kabir, that like Kundayi, you've also done both PF and LD. So if you were to pick between the two, which one would it be, and offer an explanation as to why?
All right, so my response to this question is, well, one thing you have to keep in mind is that there's a couple fundamental differences between the two types of debate. I've competed in both, and I think public forum, although it can be more useful for like public policy, maybe government speaking, if you're trying to go in towards that side, it's more about like understanding policy and just trying to convince the regular individual to kind of follow in your footsteps and try and understand your perspective. Because at the end of the day, right, you can be speaking to like industry professionals, for example, if you're talking about nuclear energy, or if you're talking to just like the regular citizen about a topic like the universal basic income. The topic diversity in public forum, I personally feel, is extremely broad, but that also comes with its own unique skill set. But the only reason that I'm going to prefer Lincoln Douglas is just because of the debate format, where rather than working with a partner, everything is on you, So it's like, if you go down, then it's your fault. You can't really have that interaction between your partner or you. So there's like, it really depends on your situation. If you're able to work with different people, I'm definitely open to both, but I'm going to prefer Lincoln Douglas because one, what it allows me to do is kind of expand my debate philosophy from just only not like being too narrow into one aspect. So for example, with Lincoln Douglas comes in the ideas of like philosophy, value criterions, values, and then you have that side of like the debate where you have like an emotional setting, like the criteria for your debate to be evaluated on. Whereas in public forum, you're only strictly focused on an argument. And then maybe if you have some sort of like weighing factor, like maybe like a cost benefit analysis, or if the pro can prove this and the con should like lose the round, I think with Lincoln Douglas, you just have a skill set that's expanded so you can use it in just a lot of more different applications. Okay, so in terms of really where I want to improve with my debate skills, I think it's the ability to effectively maintain a structure throughout your entire round, right? So like, I think some people call it signposting. There's like a lot of different names behind that. But for me, when I kind of step into a debate round, I come in with like a lot of different contingency plans in mind. So for example, if I walk in and that debater is experienced or they have a good flowing ability, then I'll bring out a different type of case, right? Whereas if I know maybe the judge is more of a lay judge, I'm going to be speaking to like with more rhetoric. I'm going to be speaking with more passion rather than, for example, trying to approach it in a different manner. So it's all about strategy when you enter. So for me, once I actually engage in the debate, and when it comes to the time of, for example, rebuttals, the main thing you want to be good at is having a proper flow sheet so that way you can just go down the list so it's easier for your judge to understand. For example, if the argument brings up 3 subpoints, then you just go right in order of everything they said and just knock off each point, right? That way, instead of the judge like being confused what you're talking about, where you are in their argument, you just go down a simple structured list, signpost all your arguments, and that way it's just more cohesive, it's more organized, and you keep your thoughts organized as well. And I think that's just the main area I want to improve, but I also think it's one of the most important factors in debate as a whole, if you are able to do that.
So how do you prepare for competitions?
Okay, so ideally what I'd like to do is I'd like to prepare in at least a week in advance. I want to know my values, value criterions, my contentions, and my subpoints before I start anything, because once I know my contentions and my subpoints, the research becomes easy and what I'm looking for becomes easy. And then when we're getting closer to debating, I actually like to work on my case building, the research, trying to think of out of the box ideas to trip my opponents. And that's pretty much the process.
So I kind of have a different approach when it comes to competition. Like thus far, like in my experience, I've seen that either people are going to have an idea of what they want to pursue and build their research off of that, or people just get all the research on the topic beforehand and then evaluate all of their options and then choose their like preferred route to go. And I think for me, I do follow the latter strategy, wherein let's say I get a topic and you have like a month gap between the topic release and the actual competition. What I do is just start right away on trying to do a topic analysis and just understand all of the different components, the background, the factors that play a role into why this debate is occurring in the first place, right? So what you want to do is, for example, if you're in public forum, you have to like gain an understanding for what's happening in the status quo, or like what's happening in just the general world that made this topic come to life. And that's going to be a really critical thing. Once you figure that out and then find a way to use that as an appeal towards, for example, just appealing towards your judge and bringing them towards your side. So what I'd fundamentally do is I start with a topic analysis, just do an outline, like a really big mega document of like all the different arguments that people could bring up, you know, go through like victory briefs, champion briefs, any types of documents that have, you know, like evidence drops, like card buildups and all these different things. And after I gain an understanding of everything, like all the moving factors that are moving around this topic, then from there, I'd choose the one that I feel would be like the most successful to use, and also with the least amount of like rebuttals against, or like harder to refute. And what I do from there is I would just stick to one argument, maybe have 2 or 3 subpoints, and just really understand that one case so thoroughly that like if someone brings up a point, you should be able to like refute anything that they bring up. So I usually have my case done like 2 weeks before the competition or tournament, and then for the last 2 weeks moving up to that, I would just work on block files and just external evidence, and then building up on, for example, like A4s and rebuilds for any arguments against the case.
This is going to be our last structured question. So any advice for new debaters or people that are wanting to start debates?
I guess the advice I'd give to new debaters is never underestimate the power of creativity. Some people might not think that creativity goes into the debate, but it actually helps a ton. I love to be creative, like when I'm in a tough spot in a competition and I'm trying to find a creative way to take what my opponent says in her case and make it to where she's in the wrong and her or his own evidence says why she is wrong on this topic. I feel like just creativity is a crucial part. It's what helps me with all my debate matches, and I feel like new debaters should try doing some creative building exercises.
For me, I think like my advice is not as so much of like approaching a debate round, it's what you do afterwards. So like a lot of people just, I think in the debate circuit as a whole, they often come up with this idea or like excuse or some sort of justification for why they lost the round. And sometimes they call it, okay, like the judge wasn't as experienced. It was just like, you got like judge screwed, right? And I think the biggest thing you have to understand is that if you didn't win the ballot, at the end of the day, you did not win the round. So what you just have to do is you have to understand why you lost that round. There's a specific reason that the judge picked that team, even if you win off the flow or even if you win off the lay. There's a specific reason that they won. And at the end of the day, you have to be good enough to analyze why you lost and then rebuild for your next tournament so that you don't make that same mistake twice. Like at the end of the day, debate is all about just trying and failing. It's a trial and error type of thing. And you just have to keep working it until you find your optimal strategy. You know, for me, it took like 3 or 4 competitions to actually get my first winning record. And after I've done that, I haven't had a losing record since, you know, so you just have to find what works best for you, and it'll only be like going good from there, because fundamentally trophies are a side effect of success. If you put in the hard work and you put in all this dedication, you may not see like your fruits of your labor initially, but over time it's going to be recognized, and all those trophies that you're going to accumulate, it'll just be a side effect of your hard work.
That pretty much wraps up the structured questions I have. Is there anything at all, you guys, to people that will be watching this or listening to this, anything else you'd recommend to them?
I think one of the main things you have to keep in mind, like just preparing for competition in general, is that when you're building all of your cases, when you're starting to do all of your initial research, make sure that it's from actually trusted or like well-respected documentations, like research journals, articles, and be able to actually pull out a card if you need to. So for example, if you bring up a statistic, you have to understand why that statistic occurs. So for example, if you say, okay, if you implement like nuclear weapons, like if North Korea gets their hand on a nuclear weapons, like the odds of a nuclear war goes up 5%. You have to be able to explain why that's the case. You have to be able to defend your internal links. And the second thing I'd have to say is that you have to be able to think like a human, not specifically like a debater. So you just have to be able to adapt to your audience, whoever they are. And in terms of the resources that you can use, you always have access to like your brief files. Like Debate Trade is always a good one. Just like start exploring Reddit, just seeing what the different people have and just trying to build up your reputation there. It's gonna like give you like a lot of benefits in the long run. And also just look for college debate teams, because sometimes they do release analyses on just different topics like PF or LD, as well as policy.
I think that for new debaters, when making cases, you should always go to your captains or your president, because you have your captains there. They're great people to come and look at your case when you know you're feeling stuck, or you just want someone to revise it or review it to see what holes you to fill or what you could do differently or how to make a point stronger. For citings and sources, I definitely started off with like for criterions and values, I used Angel Fire. I tried to use well-respected articles, and I just tried to run back cases with friends or with parents or with anyone who's willing to help me. And yeah, I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks, Sahas.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you,
thank you.
Kabir.
All right.
Thank you,
See you.
Kundayi.